Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
Satya, if you won the Mega Million, is that what it is? Mega Millions?
The Mega Million, the Powerball.
If you won the Powerball tomorrow, tonight, had a weekend to kind of let it all sink in, what would you do on Monday? And how would it be the same and or different from what you would do on a Monday without being the Powerball winner?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd definitely get a seafood tower somewhere. That's my first priority.
Yeah, the dinner on Monday with Jim might look extravagant.
I mean, I'm a sucker for a seafood tower, that's for sure. But I
would only eat lobster for breakfast for the rest of my life.
For the rest of my life. No, I might get a little tired of it, but I'm really boring when it comes to these things because I just really like my life how it is with just a few things that I would change.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I would legit cash that check, throw it all in the bank account, do nothing for 6 months probably until I just sort of like did some planning and, you know, like I wouldn't like, I'm out of here. I quit my job. Screw you guys. But we were talking about this on Thursday in our meeting and there were a couple things that I would do with some extra funds, which is hire a convenience person. So
I don't think people know what that is.
It's just like my ultimate, I don't really care about status or luxury or, I mean, those things are nice. It's not like I would say no to them, but they're not like my main drivers. My main driver is convenience. So like walking into the house and like it's all tidy and there's food in the fridge and I don't have to think about things and I get where I need to go without having to arrange anything. And like it's just done and I don't need to take the mental space.
Yeah.
My home repairs are magically fixed, like all those things. So I would hire a point person for that. You know, a VA, a personal assistant, but someone who like is good at anticipating my needs and executing on them. And then the other thing I would do is start a local community fund. So all the little like bills that people have that really stress them out that are just like, oh, how am I going to pay the kid's dentist? And how am I going to get the thing and get the food for the cat when I have no money? And like, it's just done. Like we pay your medical bills, we pay your, just whatever you need, you can submit to the anonymous community fund and it'll get taken care of.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how I just generally categorize all those things. It's like invest money to basically allow me to do more of what I'm already doing.
Yes. But
which was kind of my answer the other day too.
Yeah.
And then, you know, put money into, you know, it's charitable giving, but it's like your outlet is some focus local and help out people that are around me that, you know, are running into obstacles. And yeah, I would have loved to, donate to the GoFundMe that I donated to the other day in about like 500 times the amount that I gave.
What was it?
It was, you know, there was a recent tragedy in our county where 4 teenagers in a car got in a big accident and 2 died in the accident. They were high schoolers and 2 were in critical care comas. I don't know that they've survived. So the FundMe was actually one of the families. The daughter died. Her dad 2 years prior to that had died. That was a month ago.
Yeah.
This week, the mom of that family had an aneurysm and died. And there's a 16-year-old girl that is a sister that is left with no immediate family anymore. And it just crushes me to think about there's tragedy happening all the time. And it's like some of these things just stack and stack and stack on one individual. And it just kind of feels unfair.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I don't know. We donated to her GoFundMe and it's like, well, how do you quantify enough?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, anyway, that's not the first thing that came to mind, but Yeah, I was thinking my cleaning bill would go way up.
Me too.
I'm like, talk to the cleaners, be like, can you come every day? Like, can you basically follow my child around like 24/7 and just no, we would not be raising good kids that way if they basically learned that they could just make a mess and have it cleaned up magically. But I would definitely when the kids are out of the house and they're not paying attention to what the mess that they made getting cleaned up, I'd double down on the cleaning.
Yeah.
I was yesterday I had a totally different topic. I was kind of moving through the kitchen a little faster than I typically do. And this was not like me being careless. I picked up a glass jar out of the fridge and it just bumped at the right angle. A jar of kefir where just the bottom just blew off. And there was glass and, fermented milk everywhere. And I was like, well, that's going to just, whatever haste I was in just got,
right.
kind of came back at me 20-fold. And I just had to clean up for a while. But it meant like lifting up this little runner in our kitchen and then like getting down on the ground, just being like, okay, this is gross, but like the rest of the floor is really gross. Like I gotta clean that up. And
right.
So yeah. Yeah. When I answered the question on Thursday, I said I would invest a lot into helping basically give myself bigger gaps in between when I show up to make content.
Yeah.
Because we make content a lot of days, and I love it. I'm not like, it's not the thing I don't want to do. It's just that, most people let's talk about content back in the day before all this social media.
Oh my God.
Like what did people do? Like they would publish a book or they would film a movie or they would do a show, it's like they would do these things and it was like, okay, how long does it take to film a movie? Like months, it's like, so one movie comes out like every year and, a book takes, maybe prolific authors that come out with one or two a year, but like most people's like, I read a book every couple of years. Like you have all these time to go and investigate, research, like develop yourself, learn something, practice a craft, like do something and then come and share it with the world. It's like, I'm doing those things, but at the same time, we're creating content. It's like, could I just like go and spend 6 months and really like dive deep into something and then come back and, share a lot of new stuff with y'all? Like that's exciting to me. Yeah. So anyway, but that was it. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, right on.
Banter, check.
Well, the content piece might come into play in today's conversation.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is today's conversation?
Today's conversation is about becoming a professional fitness coach.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Yeah, or what does a fitness business look like?
And from the business perspective.
Sure.
All those things.
Oh, great. Well, you have a lot to share on this. And I kind of teased the group. I said, the holy grail of building a successful fitness business is find yourself a Satya. That's it. Mic drop. See you next time. Enjoy the rest of this silence for the next 20 minutes. No, I had a decent business before I met Satya, and then together we've built a bigger, more wider reaching business. But yeah, I mean, let's start with, and you had a pretty successful business before we met as well, but it's like, what's the seed that gets that gives rise to the potential for a successful business?
Yeah.
And it's, in my experience, and I think you share this too, I got aligned with something that I could earn a living doing that I really, really liked and like spent a lot of my time thinking about anyway. So like fitness, I was spending, before I made my first dollar as a fitness coach, I spent far more time thinking about fitness and nutrition than anything else in my life. Even as a medical student, even in college, even when I was like, you know, supposed to be like chasing girls and into you know, like whatever, like I was the fitness, nutrition, thinking about it all the time, reading about it. Like I was just like, where are you spending all of your time? That's what you care about. Go and figure that out.
Yeah.
If you're a gamer and you spend all your time there and you can learn of a way to monetize that, then guess what? Like you're going to crush.
That's what my brother did.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that was like the first thing. And I think most people that are like, I want to build a fitness career, I want to get into fitness because they love working out and but loving working out and loving how it makes you feel versus like, I really want to study this thing and I want to learn as much as possible because not only am I trying to like, I think there's a difference. I think there's like, I'm deeply fascinated by this thing and I want to understand it deeply versus like, oh man, I really have fun when I go to the gym. How can I make this my career so I can work out more?
Yes.
That can work for some people, but it's hit or miss, you know, because ultimately people are going to pay for the value that you bring to them. And value comes in the way of, you know, there's a lot of ways to create value for people, but certainly knowledge and sharing of knowledge is huge value to your potential customers of the future. And if you're just like, I love working out and looking good, then like, and you like, how do I make this my career so I can just work out more? It's like, well, then what's the thing that what's the value you're providing people? It's like, do people just want to watch you work out? Well, then you better be the best. You better be the best looking, or you better have you better have something very unique about you that's going to attract enough people's attention, and you're going to be able to provide enough value just through the thing that you like to do, you know, and that might be hard. And that's where, yeah, maybe that's the first place to start, or I don't know. Does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah. Well, what I've been thinking about is that no matter what you choose to do for your career, if you go out on your own, if you're a fitness coach, or if you do anything else out on your own, maybe you're a health coach, or maybe you are a web developer like I was, you know, you are still going to run into the same issues that everybody shares, which are, how do you build a business? And those things are boring, and they are skills. I mean, I don't find them boring. I love them, but a lot of people find them boring if they're into fitness coaching, because you have to think about operations and taxes and accounting and, you know, like getting the equipment that you need and how you're going to pay for all of that. You have to think about marketing and content and how you're going to get yourself known, or how you're going to reach out to people one-on-one to do sales. And all of these things take time. And so you really need to consider your average day and your average week. And I think that people get really sucked up into the dream of, oh, fitness coaching sounds so fun because all I would do is just show up and coach fitness. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, you're going to show up and coach fitness, and you're going to have all these other things. And the more skilled and intentional you are about operations and marketing and sales, the better you are going to build your fitness coaching business.
Yeah. I mean, well, you bring up a good distinction, and that is, do you want to have your own business, or do you just want to do fitness coaching? Mm-hmm. You know, and I think a lot of people are attracted to the idea of having their own business because there's this assumption that there's autonomy and freedom, which there is, but in exchange for that autonomy and freedom, you take on all the things that you mentioned in the way of responsibility in order to be successful. So, you know, if you want to get into the fitness industry, and I still think what I said, you got to check that box of like, I deeply am passionate about this versus this is just like the thing that I love to spend time doing. Like, I love to go to the golf course and play golf, mm-hmm. but I didn't love it as enough. Like, I'm going to make this my career. Yeah. Like, I didn't, you know, I wasn't as deeply invested in it in that way. So if you check the box of like, I truly am, this is something I'm deeply invested in, like I care enough about this, that is like the seed that could yield success in a career in fitness coaching.
Right.
But you still have to make this other decision, which is, do I go and work for somebody else?
Yep.
Or do I work for myself? And working for somebody else, there's trade-offs.
Yep.
Okay. Like, they're going to take a cut of what you do. They might take the majority cut of what you do, but in return, you get to show up and coach.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. I mean, there's skills that you need to develop in order to, like, you know, be more efficient and effective as a career coach, but you probably don't have to worry about operations. You don't have to worry about HR. You don't have to worry about
taxes.
You don't have to worry about anything. You know,
Yeah.
You just show up and you're a W-2 employee and you get a paycheck and you get to coach. And hopefully you work in a company where if you're a really good coach, you get better clients, you get higher paying clients, and you can ascend, and that's it. And it's like, well, I see that, you know, 50% of my paycheck is going to the company, or 60% of my paycheck is going to the company, or 60% of my clients' fees are going to the company. That doesn't seem right. I want that 60%. Okay. So you choose the path of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to run my own fitness business. Mm-hmm. And so that 60% is now in your pocket, but you got to pay for a number of other things or do them yourself.
Right.
And that's just time or money. What do you want to do?
Exactly.
And so a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to pay for, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to bootstrap this. So then they end up doing the operations, the marketing, all the things that have to go into the business in order to get customers, in order to make them happy. You're not that good at it because you're actually a really good fitness coach, but you're not a good marketer and you're not a good operations person, and you don't know anything about taxes and you don't know anything about corporate structure, and you have no idea about these things. So you're spending 70% of your time doing that in exchange for 60% of money. And guess what? Now that you're spending 70% of your time doing that, you don't have as much time to train clients, or your lifestyle starts to suffer. You start to get overworked. And then after a couple of years, you burn out. So there's a lot of questions that happen here. So what I did was super passionate and deeply interested and wanting to share and educate myself. And okay, I think I want to go do this as a career. I want to go try it. So I went and worked for somebody else for a while.
Yep.
I worked as a CrossFit coach. I worked for somebody else for probably 18 months. And then it was super clear that I wanted more. I wanted to grow into a new role. Okay, well, you want to, let's see, it was, go into partnership. I didn't jive right into my own business. I took on a partner because I knew I wasn't ready to do the bookkeeping and the admin and building the website, and they had done all this stuff. So if I partner with them, guess what? I don't have to do those things. What I can do is I can take on 2 new roles as an owner, which would be, a little bit of face-to-face sales, a little bit of training of other coaches, and a little bit of like operational stuff for my facility. And that was a good first step for me. So I learned that. So I went from like, I work for somebody else as a coach. I climbed to the top of the coach ladder. I was the best coach. I was the head coach. I took on a lot of responsibility there. I was programming for the gyms. I was the one that people wanted to do personal training with. Okay, I got some signals that I'm good at what I'm doing, at least objective good. And then from there, it was, what am I going to do next to try and ascend? And it was partnership, not start my own business.
Right.
Partnership lasted for me for about 5 years. And probably at the 3-year mark, it started to become clear that, hey, you know what? I have aspirations of doing something where I need to have more autonomy than this. I can't be 50% partner because I can't direct the vision that I want. And I'd already seen a little bit in behind the curtains of like, this is what needs to get done. And so I was like, okay, I don't have all those skills, but I believe I can find people to help me in those areas. I'm going to shift to now I'm going to start my own business where I'm going to be running all the things. And what I can't do and what I know I don't have time to do, I'm going to find people to backfill and do that with me. That's where I started to meet with financial advisors and business coaches and, tax planners and CPAs, and have a friend who's a lawyer who can write up corporate, help me incorporate and corporate structure. And so started to find people to help do that stuff. And this is also around the time where I was like, I need to fill in some holes. I don't have the tech side of things to like really get this is like, now your online presence as a business is essential in 2016 when I'm going out on my own. I need someone to help me build a website that resonates with like the brand and people, and like, okay, I got to start finding that and putting that out in the universe. Right. And this is when you reached out to me and you're like, hey, I think I could support you in this, you cold call me in a way. And I was like, well, do you do these things? I was very focused on the, do you do website develop? Like, could you help me build a website? Like, kind of, that was my main thing I needed help with, at least in my mind, because I had limited knowledge.
Yeah.
And you were like, sure. And I think I could help you with this other thing, which was marketing, but I didn't realize it was marketing. I didn't understand that. I didn't have a lot of marketing chops. My marketing to that point was organic social media, which I didn't ever have to do anything for. It just worked in my favor. Thankfully, social media supported me in getting clients, and I had a reputation locally, and things just started to work. So just a quick backstory or, rewind was, got into coaching because I knew I wanted to explore whether this was really for me. I had a feeling that it could be for me. I worked for somebody else for a period of time, did really well. Decided I wanted more. Partnership worked for me as a first step because I was very intimidated by the things that I didn't know. Tried that for a period of time. Realized I want to take on the next step. Went on out on my own. Knew I had a little bit of money at that point, so I didn't have to bootstrap it all on my own. I could hire some help. Hired some help. Started to think, I need to fill this thing. I need to fill this thing. And then I started learning from, the people that were close to me, and learning from mistakes that were being made, or learning from, things that, issues that I ran into. I was like, oh, I don't know how to, I've got more people asking for my coaching services than I can fulfill. That means I got to hire somebody. I don't know how to hire somebody. Like, what's the right way to hire somebody? Okay, I'll hire this person. Oh, that was the wrong way to hire them. Like, I didn't have an onboarding system. I didn't have like a contract. I didn't have like a set of expectations. I didn't necessarily have, okay, I got to build that. I got to build this. And with each step of building, I got less and less connected to the coaching that I was doing, but I was also passionate and getting interested in entrepreneurship. I was like, oh, this is great. I like building things. This is cool. Like, had I been like, man, this is just a bummer. Like, I'm having to do all this stuff and I can't coach people anymore, I might have taken a 180 and been like, I need to do something different, or hire people faster to do all these things for me that I didn't like doing. So anyway, I'll pause and inject when you came into the scene. Like, what did you see and what was happening from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's really interesting to think about scale here. And some people may get to a level where they can be completely satisfied for their entire career of just having a manageable roster of clients for themselves. And they work out enough marketing and operations and sales systems so that they can keep that running without too much extra friction. But I think in your case, what I saw was that you had the potential to become much, much larger than you currently were, because at the time that I met you, you had around 64,000 followers on Instagram, which was a good chunk to build something off of. You were known in the CrossFit space, but you had no website, no email list, no real like marketing system. And you were coaching your handful of clients through your own system that you'd built, but there wasn't really like a system for, onboarding new clients and tracking all their payments and doing all the things to scale that part. You had a couple coaches when I came on. So I just saw a huge potential to grow what you had already started and were already doing quite well at to reach a much, much bigger scale. And that's really the transition from a personal coaching service where a lot of people, that's all they can really conceive of, because I think especially with coaching, it's a very physical, hands-on type of profession. And most people come from a personal training background or a CrossFit coaching background where they're in the room with people. And so it can be hard to transition. It's getting more and more common now, but it can be hard to mentally figure out, how am I going to take this to a broader, bigger scale? Yeah. So that was really what I saw when we started work together. And the thing that I initially pitched you on was like, hey, like, I think you should do an online program, an online group program that anybody could join. And you're like, really don't think that's my jam, but hey, maybe you can build a website for me. And I'm like, great, let's start there.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, a lot of the things that you just said, like, I want to know how much of that is informed by what's happened over the last 6 years and how much you kind of knew when you came on, because you were like, I think you saw potential, and it's easy to say like, oh, all these things were potential because a lot's changed in 6 years. But at the time, where did you say like, this is what I know I can help with? Like, this is in my wheelhouse. Like, there are parts that we've learned together over the last 6 years that were not in either of our wheelhouses when we started. So like, what was like these are the two things, or the one thing that I absolutely knew could elevate the state of the business when we met?
Yeah. I knew that you needed a way to keep the attention that you were getting on social media, because attention on social media is fleeting, and you have to have somewhere to put those people where you can own that group of people, to contact them and to give them a place to land. So you had already had a blog, but it was a little bit different than what you needed in terms of a website where people can go and sign up for your email list. And the email list is crucial because on social media, you don't really have that much control over your reach, but with an email list, you can always reach out to those people in a very directed way. And those are people who have already said, yes, I want to hear more from this person. So that is really a key part of where I saw this business going, where we needed a way to convert that attention that you were getting into something that was sustainable from a business standpoint. But I absolutely knew that there was a huge potential there. And that was a combination of the attention you already had on social media from what you were doing. It was a combination of just you being a little bit already known in the CrossFit space, where I thought that would be a very easy piece of notoriety to build something off of. It's not absolutely necessary, but I would say that it's much easier to build a business around something where you have something that makes you stand out from everybody else in the space. Whether that's a niche, like you're knees over toes guy, or you're the glute guy, or you're just known because I'm in the CrossFit space and I've been to the games and this is like a known name. Yeah.
You're the long hair guy.
You're the long hair guy. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that those are just the pieces that I knew would make this successful. And I knew that I could already see on your social media that people were kind of asking for more, which is a good sign. And I also just saw that you were incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about what you were doing. So you had put in the work to go and study and learn and be somebody who could really bring a lot to the table in terms of value. Yeah.
Well, that's super consistent with how I see our, when we met, and what I learned from you and what you brought to the table early on. And, now I've watched enough business content and marketing content to be able to like talk about it with some language that makes sense. It's like, your own media versus what you're doing out there in like the world of social media, which you don't own that. They own it. They're doing what they want to do with it. They can algorithm you up or algorithm you down, whereas you got someone's attention because they opted into something that you are offering, and now you can communicate with them directly. And all that is I learned all that from you and from our time together, and it's made a massive impact. I mean, you can literally pull up the amount of conversions and sales that we've made just from emails over the years. And it's not it's not the majority or all of what we've sold in the last, 6 years together, but it's a huge chunk. And it's like, that comes from just being able to reach out to people directly who have said, hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer. You provided me a lot of value. I gave you my email in exchange for some value. Like, this is a fair exchange, and let's go. And that was beautiful. And it's something that most people do not understand in the age of, I get my first client, I get my first DMs, or I get my first clients through DMs on social media. That's a different type of thing. I mean, it's still, they see value, they want to contact you, but it's through another platform that is not yours. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big take home point. But then since then, there have been probably, 3 to 5 big milestones and big things that we've kind of evolved through. And the first was learning how to create and market and deliver a new product and a new service. That was the first thing that had to happen. I had done group fitness coaching, but I had left that business. I was in the individual personal coaching business at this point, which was, you're my client, I communicate with you directly, I create something for you, we have a relationship, you pay me for that service. And then we investigated what it would mean to build, and once it was built and once it was sold for the first time, how do we maybe amplify this other type of service, which is selling a group fitness program online. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, now I'm selling one thing that's going to go to a lot of people, and how do you message about what this thing is? What does this thing do for you? How do you write something and put together a program that will work for a large group of people, not just one person? How do you satisfy that a larger group of customers? Like, I can handle communicating with 50, 60 clients individually, but I can't handle, communicating with 400 new customers that just bought the first program of mine. Like, how do I do that by myself? We need other people to help with that. We have to build that infrastructure, that system. So that was like kind of with that first big change to the business, we had to learn a lot of things. And I believe you had to learn a lot of things about, like, you had sold online programs, but I don't believe at this scale before. And there was a lot of technical stuff that was happening. A lot of, there were a lot of sleepless nights I know that you had in those first several launches, and then making sure that, like, what was happening on the back end and the follow up with those people. Those were highly intense periods of time where I think your learning curve was going up. Mine was going way up because we were both having to solve tons of problems or tons of new challenges all the time. Yeah. And it really, like, the year, like from April 2017, when we launched our first program, to January of 2018, a full kind of year cycle of that program being launched, all 4 cycles of Awaken Training Series, we leveled up in a way that was, really, really remarkable. Yeah. And I believe you were going through a divorce, and I had my first child in that same year. So
it was nutty.
It was wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then, I think that is so underrepresented in the world of any business, but especially like the fitness online program business, of like, nobody ever thinks about how you're actually going to get that customer from the point of, I want to sign up for this, to doing the program, and then what happens after, because you have to have the website and the payment, and you have to figure out what platform you're going to deliver through, right, and how they're going to get set up. And
that's why there's entire businesses that are kind of one-stop shop solutions for coaches to do that. Yeah. Go to Train Heroic, like, done. Done. You just put your program in there. They take a giant cut of it, but you get some distribution. You have a place for payment processing. Like, you can just put a link. There's a lot of ways to do it. But that gets back to the original question of, like, are you going to go work for somebody else? Are you going to use somebody else's service? Are you going to try and build it on your own? And we kind of have been in building our own from day one in a lot of ways, thanks to your scrappiness and prior experience and knowledge, but also the scrappiness of like, I'm going to learn how to do this. We're going to learn how to do this and figure it out, which has allowed us to probably not grow as fast or solve problems as quickly, or maybe just not, put more stress on ourselves than we've needed to at times or was comfortable. But it's also allowed us to have a lot of control over what you have taught me over the years too, which is so important, which is control over your brand and what you stand for.
Yeah.
And when somebody else is taking a big role in delivering the thing that you do, they start to influence that and impact the customer experience. And if it gets out of your control and now the customers feel a way about your company based upon how somebody else helped you or didn't help you or provided a service, like that can be damaging, and it can really mess things up for, your long-term success. So you've been highly protective of our brand, and at times to the point of like contention with me, where I'm just like, Satya, like, why are we doing this? Like, somebody else should do this. You're like, well, I don't want to sacrifice something. And I'm like, this is going too slow. It's like, we gotta, but on the whole, like after 6 years, it's been one of the most important things in our, that we stand for in our company, and most important values that you and we have aligned to, which again is something that I think that's another big take home for the listener who's like, I want to get into, let's say it's fitness coaching, whatever. It's like, if you're going to build your own business, or you're even going to build yourself as a coach that works for another business, you still have brand that is you, and protect that thing at all costs, almost at all costs. But make sure it's a very high priority.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think my other take home point for people is that if you really want to do this and grow to a level like we've seen with functional bodybuilding, where you're making a really big impact on a lot of people's lives and turning that fitness coaching profession into something that's really large and impactful, then you have to know that behind the scenes, like, it is a level of pure grit and hard work, and it's not easy. And the one story that really like always sums this up for me is when we were in the middle of a summer Awaken Training Series launch. So the marketing was going out, everyone was going to the website, everyone was signing up, everyone had questions. It was a super hot day. We were in our old Costco style gym, which was the supplement warehouse. We had trained that morning, and we were like covered in sweat and all gritty and dusty. And we'd run out of water in the water dispenser, and we had to go pick out the wall material for our new gym that we were about to move into, because we were expanding. And we were in the parking lot of Smart and Final scrounging for change in the car and to fill the water. And it was like, yes, this is why your questions are not getting answered right now, because we are just doing it all.
I wasn't remembering that until you mentioned the Smart and Final, getting the water, taking the water jug to get it filled up. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'm going to leave you all with is, it's been, when I get asked about this business, to talk about the business and whatever success we have had or not had, I always kind of have this, like, we say, oh, we talk about something that's been successful, and I always like pause, and I'm like, okay, but you're only as good as your last shot, there's still a lot of work to be done, and continuous work to just keep everybody satisfied. And one of the biggest things that helps that process is the people listening to this. You all have, without your support, without, listener support, without people that do our programs, like, we're not you know, we're nothing. We're here trying to provide value. And then when you feel it and you own it yourself and then you share it with other people, that's what allows us to really grow. So if you've been positively impacted by functional bodybuilding, if the content we put out here on this podcast or our training programs has changed your life for the better in any way, then you're the reason why we're doing this.
Yes.
And I would humbly ask that you share that experience with just one other person. Share this podcast with somebody, you know, tag us in a piece of content that you liked of ours and tag a friend. And, you know, those types of small gestures really move things for us. And we are really grateful when you all support that domino effect of, you know, sharing it with others. So that's all I have to finish with. Anything on your end?
Yeah, I second that. And the thing about our email newsletter is that that's always something that we wanted to use as a vehicle for adding a lot of value and in-depth value. So if you're not subscribed to that, please subscribe to that and get a friend to subscribe as well. And it's completely free. Functional-bodybuilding.com.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I want to just add this one thing. Maybe if I can find it very quickly, I will say this. Otherwise, I will just let it go. But
no, you got to find it now.
Here we go. Nate, just wanted to say your last few newsletters have been some of my favorite. I love the breakdown of Cliff's training plan and nutrition and found the info incredibly helpful. So Nate seems DM me that an hour and a half ago.
Oh, thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Nate. And if you want to see some of that content and you're not already subscribed, head over to our website and get onto our email list.
Yeah. And we're starting a blog now too, so we'll put some of that up there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
All right. Love y'all. Have a great day, weekend, whatever you're at.
See you next time.